Hello and welcome to Relatively Crafty, a knitting podcast. This is episode 11. I am Cristi. I am the wife to Ron and mother to daughters Tatum, who is 12, and Delaney, who is 9. I am a fairly newly transport to Colorado. I've moved here in September from Southern California. I wonder when I stopped being a new transport. I've been here for 4 months? October, November, December, January, February. It'll be 5 months at the end of this month. So I guess eventually I'm not going to call myself a transport anymore, but it's still really new. Maybe I'll make it like a full year because I haven't gone through all the seasons yet. So I feel like until I've gone through and experienced a whole year in Colorado, I'm still a new transport. You can find me on Ravelry as Cristi-Lael, and you can find me on Instagram as Cristi-Lael without the dashes and without any capitals, by the way. I don't know why I did that. Maybe Instagram does that itself. I don't know, but it doesn't have any capitals. And then there is a Relatively Crafty Podcast group on Ravelry. You can find that by just clicking on the forums tab, you can find that by clicking on the groups tab and searching Relatively Crafty Podcast, and it should come up. We're still a small group, but we are a growing group, and that is good. I appreciate everybody who has introduced themselves in there and has made comments on the podcast threads. I appreciate it. It's cool getting to know all you groovy people out there. All you wild and crazy knitters. Sorry. Anyway, I wanted to, first off, make an announcement. I'm going to have my first giveaway. I'm really excited about it. It's not going to be anything grand, but I kind of wanted to dip my toe in the whole giveaway pool, as it were, and so I have used, I've shown these on a couple of episodes, but I have these knitting bags that my Aunt Kathy in Texas, she made them for me, and they're just basic drawstring project bags, but I get a lot of compliments on them at the yarn shop and when I use them out in public. And so I asked her if she would be willing to sew a project bag for me to give away on the channel, and she is so awesome that she was like, yes, definitely, I will do that right away. And she did. So I have it here. I haven't even taken it out of the package yet. But she made this little woodland creature. It's got squirrels and foxes and raccoons and hedgehogs on it with some fall leaves and some acorns. Autumn is my favorite time of year, so yeah, I just think this is a perfect bag, and it's got this nice coordinating brown on the inside and then a dark brown drawstring. So I'm going to go ahead and open a thread in the Ravelry group for this, and to enter, I would like you to show off the one thing that you've made that you're the most proud of, the one thing that you just love the most. If it's a sweater, the one that fit the best, or a project that had a technique that really pushed you, and you're just, when you think about your knitting, this is the one thing that you have made that you're just super duper proud of what you did with it. So that's what the prompt is gonna be in the thread. Go ahead and link to your project page, post a picture if you can do that. But yeah, I definitely want to know about those things because I find that kind of stuff interesting. I love to hear about people's knitting triumphs. This is international. I'm willing to ship this little bag anywhere. I don't think it'll cost very much to ship it all over the world because it's not very heavy. And I'll probably add a couple of extra little goodies, some minis or something like that. So, but yeah, please enter. I'm excited about it, and I'll leave the thread open until the end of February, and I'll do the drawing at that point. Okay, so let's move on to FOs. I have 2 FOs to show you this week. The first ones you shouldn't be surprised about because I was really close to finishing these last week. These are my Magic and Moonshine socks. Magic and Moonshine is the dyer, and the yarn base is Fitty Witty Wow Wow, which I love the name of that base. And it's her self-striping sock yarn. And the colorway was called Long Time Coming, and you can see it's 3-row stripes of just a really pretty green, orange, and blue. I love them. I'm so glad that I finally knit this up. This was a really old stash. I think I had this since like 2010 or somewhere around there, and it's really nice to finally get it made into socks. I followed my own vanilla recipe, which is a free pattern on Ravelry called Cristi's Stripy Sock Recipe, I believe. Doing a Turkish cast on, toe up, and then doing a waist yarn for an afterthought or a forethought heel, and then ending with Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, and then coming back. And I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to do a contrasting heel or use the stripy yarn for the heel, and I decided to go ahead and do a contrasting heel. As you can see, this is the electrolyte leftover that I had for that colorwork sock that I finished the other day. That took me 4 years to knit. So this is Hazelnut's Artisan Sock in Electrolyte. I think it's called Electrolyte. And if you recall, I had bought 2. She sells quarter skeins. I'm almost positive they're quarter skeins. And so I bought 2 in the Electrolyte colorway. This was what I had left over from the first sock, so I still have a whole nother quarter skein for the second sock. And it was the perfect amount for the heels on these socks. It was like 11 grams, and so it was perfect. I think I have just enough left over to make a single hexaflat for my hexaflat blanket. And so yeah, really happy with these, and yeah, it's just a really good feeling. I'm really enjoying knitting up some of these old stripy sock yarns that I've had so long in my stash. And I realize that, you know, in the grand scheme of things, having something since 2011 doesn't seem like that long because it's only about 6 years, but in the world of yarn, 6 years can be a long time. The other FO I have actually coordinates very well with my outfit. But let me tell you a little backstory to it. Ron doesn't ask me for knitted items very often. It has been very rare for him to request something. So when he does ask for something, when he does make a special request for something, I try to accommodate that. And that happened recently. We have a back porch where Ron likes to sit and do his reading for school a couple of nights a week, and you know, during the winter in Colorado it gets pretty nippy outside, especially after the sun goes down. So so he sits out there, and he's got a scarf, and he's got his hat on, and he's got a blanket over him, but he's typing sometimes, or he's using the mouse to read, and his hands get cold. So he asked for some fingerless gloves. He didn't want full fingered. He wanted ones to be able to cover up most of his hands, but then be able to be folded down if he wanted to type. And so I thought, well, those are easy peasy to knit up and super duper quick. And I wouldn't even mind having to knit them in black, which is what I expected him to request for the color, because he tends to like to go with, you know, black or dark gray or navy. However, he surprised me and asked for them in mustard, of all colors. So I went down and got some Cascade 220 at the yarn shop, and made him a pair of fingerless gloves in mustard. So they kind of almost match my sweater today. So they're very, very simple. There's not a whole lot to it. I just knit them out of my brain, and I think I cast on 40 stitches, and I ribbed for like 10 rows, and then I did stockinette for 20 20 rows, and then I think I did 15 stitches for the thumb gusset, and then I think there's another 12 rows up for the palm, and then 15 rows of ribbing. I made the ribbing extra tall because he wanted to be able to fold them down. And yeah, that's about all I did. Sorry, I'm totally covering up my face. I'm recording later on in the afternoon, so I'm not getting as great natural light, but I had a meeting this morning, and so this is when I got to do it. So yeah, I did write down on my project page, which I will link down below, of course, what I did exactly if you wish to copy, although really there's nothing spectacular with these, so you could just easily get any of the free fingerless gloves patterns and recreate exactly what I've done, or pretty much. And that is the last of my FOs for this week. However, I do have a hoe, a half-finished object, and I am in love with it so much. Look at this, guys. Look at this beautiful sock. I love everything about this sock. The yarn is Lolo Did It in Hippo for Valentine's in her everyday sock base, which has already become a super duper favorite of mine. Like, I will be happy to knit a million pairs of socks out of this everyday sock base. The pattern is the Speckled Space Socks by Amanda Stevens, and I fell in love with this pattern the first time I saw it. The little chevron thingies here, motifs, I just think they're adorable, and so I knew that I wanted to make this sock, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with the heel, because as you can see, this is a heel flap and gusset, which I'm not opposed to knitting, but these socks are toe up, so it's a kind of a reverse heel flap and gusset. You do the gusset first and then the heel flap. It's an interesting construction, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that. I know a lot of people substituted the Fish Lips Kiss heel for this heel in the pattern, but I've been trying to, as I've said several times before, I've been trying to try out new techniques this year, and I had done years and years and years ago. I guess it would be a true reverse heel flap and gusset, because you did the heel flap on the bottom of the foot and then the gusset going up. So it was kind of like the opposite. You know, you just like when you do a top down sock and you do a heel flap where you just knit those flap stitches on half the stitches and then turn the heel and then connect the front of the sock again. You did the heel flap on the bottom of the foot, just working those half stitches for a couple of inches, and then turned the heel and then went back around again. It was really strange, and I didn't like it, and I ended up having to rip back the sock anyway, because I think it was too loose, and I just did a short row wrap and turn heel, and I like that so much better. But this, you do the gusset on it looks exactly like the one you would do for a top down sock. You just do it backwards. So maybe instead of a reverse heel flap and gusset, it would be a backwards heel flap and gusset. I don't know. I don't know what you would call it, but I did like it, and I really like how this sock fits. It fits really, really well. So I may do this again. It's kind of fiddly. It's not as quick and easy as some of the other heels. Definitely not as quick and easy as an afterthought heel. But I liked it. It was interesting to do, and yeah, I'm so thrilled with how this sock came out, guys. So I can't wait until I have a finished pair. Do a little close up there so you can see how those stitches came out. Sorry it's so dark. And that leads us to whips. So I can show you that I did indeed start the second sock. I've got the toe done, and that's about it. But I'm in love. I'm just in love with this dye job and with this pattern, with this base. It's like when all the planets align and everything works out perfectly. That's kind of how it's working with this sock. And then I do have another sock going. I have a regular vanilla stripy sock, and this is out of Snitch's yarn in their Syncopation line, which is their self-striping. And this is another really old stash that I've had for a really long time. And I'm really glad to finally be knitting it. So these are just plain vanilla. This is my regular sock recipe. There's where the heel is gonna go, and I'm just knitting away at it. Oh, I missed an FO. Hang on. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay, I have this little tiny FO. Look it. I knit a whittle leaf. Isn't that adorable? I knit this little tiny leaf. This was a kit that I had gotten from somebody, somewhere, sometime. I don't even remember. But it came with a little, like, 2-gram skein-lit of yarn and the instruction booklet. And I think it was from the Tsarina of Socks. I'll put it down below. But yeah, it called for you could knit it either out of a size 1 or out of a 000. And I didn't have a 000 needle, but I did have a 400. I actually have a 400, a quintuple-aught, and a sextuple-aught. Quintuple? Sextuple? 4 zeros, 5 zeros, and 6 zeros. I have those needles. I was at one point going to attempt to make antique-looking doll socks for ceramic dolls. I used to work with a lady who refurbished antique dolls, and so she was like, well, if you want to make these socks for me, then I'll commission you to do that. It never ended up panning out, but I needed the little tiny needles to do them, because you make them out of like super duper skinny lace, cobweb lace yarn. So anyway, so I've had the needles for a long time, and I thought it would be great to have a really small leaf, so I used the 400 needle, and I hated every moment of knitting this. It wasn't a hard pattern, but those needles, I'll post a close-up of the needles as well. They're really, really small, and they're really easy to bend, and they're really sharp, and so just straight knitting would be easy peasy mac and cheesy, but I had to do, slip knits and knit 2 togethers, and slip 1, knit 2 together, pass a slip stitch over type things, and that was kind of hard to do with those little tiny needles. So I finished this one, and I blocked it, and I showed it to Delaney, and she was like, oh, Mom, can you make me one in purple? And I said, no. I'll let her have this one. Not gonna make another one. But it was an adventure, and it didn't take very long, and I'm glad that I made it, and now I can say that I did it. And finally, I can take that out of my little tchotchke stash and know that it is finally done. But that's my last FO. Now let's get back into the whips. The only other whip that I have is my Twillingate, which is still quite a work in progress. And I have not made very much progress on it. You can see here is, this is hard. Here is the V. It's rolling crazily, sorry. Okay, so here is the V-neck right there. That is where I was. This is where I am now. So I've knit like, 4 inches maybe since last week. So, I mean, it still looks like a sweater. It's still growing. It's still making progress. I'm just not making very much progress on it. And I know why. I know why. I'm not making progress on it because this is a very plain, although very well written pattern. So, there's not a lot to it. It's just stockinette the entire way through. And then it's also because this is not luxurious yarn. It's okay. It's good. It's well constructed yarn, but there's nothing really fun about it. It doesn't feel especially soft, and it doesn't have great content in it. It's just wool, and there have been other patterns that are more involved and intriguing, and other yarns that are more luxurious, and so those keep calling to me, and this one keeps sitting on the ground next to me instead of being knit on. So I am going to try to make a more concerted effort to knit on this week, because now we are in February proper, and I need to get this done, because I have, you can't see much, but this entire shelf is filled in the front. I mean, there's books in the back, but in the front there's one layer of just wound yarn, and I need to get this finished so that I can get started on these projects. And those are all the projects that I talked to you about last week. There's a brioche hat. There's these. This is the cowl, the bobble cowl that I want to knit, and the brioche hat, and then there's a shawl. I did pick out a shawl pattern. I didn't pick it out because it was suggested to me in the comments, and so I'll put that right down here because I can't remember it. But I have wound the yarn for the shawl, and then I have wound yarn for 2 sweaters, and so I need to finish my tooling gate so that I can work on, so I can start any of these projects. So that's what I need to do. So hopefully this weekend I can knock some of that out. At one point, I'm going to get to that tipping point. Right now I'm less than halfway through, so it just seems like there's so much left of it to do. But at one point, I'm going to get past halfway, and I'm going to get close to being done, and then it will be a lot easier. So I just need to get to that tipping point, and then I'm going to probably do a lot better with it. But I need to keep that in mind, that if I'm going to pick a more simple pattern, I need to pick it for yarn that I'm excited to knit with. So that's all my whips. Let's go ahead and get into my stash editions. And I have a special stash edition today. I'm really, really excited about it. It's been something that's been in the works for a very long time, and I'm so glad that it's kind of come to fruition at this point. But before that special stash edition, I want to show this other, also special stash edition, but not, it doesn't quite have the history of the other one, but I don't want to diminish it in any way because I'm super excited about it. I got the January Knitterly Things Vesper Sock Rainbow Club. She's doing a monthly rainbow club for this year. It's called Rainbow of the Month, and I got the January the other day. So if you're in the club and you haven't gotten your yarn, although you really should have by now, I guess maybe not if you're international. I guess international ones could still be out there, but if you're in the club and you haven't gotten your yarn and you don't want to be spoiled, then look away right now because I'm going to show the yarn, but I won't say anything about it. Okay, are you looking away? All right, here we go. There it is. Look at that. Oh, isn't it gorgeous? I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay, if you were looking away, you can look back now. So I got that, which I'm really excited about. And then the special yarn is, okay, so a couple of years ago, 2 years ago maybe, I was slightly dabbling in drop spindle spinning, like very slightly dabbling. Like I maybe spun a half an ounce, not very much. And I was thinking at the time that this was something that I could probably hone over a couple of years, and maybe eventually be able to become a spinner, a proper spinner, like I'm a proper knitter. So I was vacationing with my parents in Solvang, the whole family, our family's vacation together. And we were in Solvang, California, and there's a little, well, we were right outside of Solvang, but we went into Solvang one of the days, and there was a little yarn shop. And I like to support local yarn shops when I go traveling, but they didn't have any yarn that I wanted, and I didn't need any needles or anything like that. And I was like, what am I going to do? But they did have a lot of fiber. And so I thought, and the fiber was very reasonably priced. And it's just merino. It's not anything really spectacular. It wasn't special. But it was pretty colors, and it was reasonably priced. And I thought, I could get a sweater's worth of this fiber, and then, eventually I'll get good enough at spinning that I'll spin myself a sweater's worth of yarn. And then knit it, and it'll be okay because it'll just be for me. So even if it's like thick and thin and I don't do it very well, I can knit myself, a sweater, and I will at least have the, the pride of knowing that I did it all by myself. But then, since it's for me, it doesn't have to be perfect. Well, my mom happened to see that this is what I was doing, and so she said, well, you can spin one for me too. And I said, well, maybe, okay. So she bought a sweater's worth of fiber as well. And then we went home, and I, put the fiber away, and then I promptly forgot about it. I didn't spin very much after that. I still have my drop spindle, but I haven't gotten the spinning bug yet, so it's not something that I'm really, I spent much time on. And after about a year, Mom started asking, what are you going to do with that fiber? Have you started spinning yet? Are you good enough to make it into yarn? And I was like, at that point, it was right about that point that I was even losing my knitting mojo, and so I wasn't even really knitting very much. I was like, what, I don't think that I'm ever going to be able to get there. We'll just, I don't know, Mom. But I bought the fiber, well, and she did, and so I kind of felt bad. So I have a knitting friend in New Zealand that I know through Ravelry, who also spins beautifully. So I asked her, just, on the off chance, I said, what would you charge to commission spinning a sweater's quantity of fiber? And she gave a very reasonable price, and so I mentioned that to Mom, and we waited a little while, kind of thinking about it, and Mom finally decided that she really wanted this sweater. So I sent it out about 6 months ago, and I told her to take her time and just spin it as she could, and how everything worked. And she just finished it a couple of weeks ago and shipped it out, and it came yesterday, and it is gorgeous. So I should say, Mom picked rainbow colors. She wants a rainbow striped sweater. So we have blue, purple, and green, and red, orange, and yellow. And they're all a DK weight, and they're all beautiful, and they're all going to make a beautiful sweater. Mom and I are still trying to kind of nail down exactly what pattern we want to do. We're not sure yet. We've kind of got it narrowed down to a couple, but there's some things that she wants that I haven't quite found in a pattern, so I might have to kind of fiddle with an existing pattern, or just kind of, group together the aspects that she wants. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be fun. So So yeah, that is the addition to the stash that I'm super duper excited about, because it's been a long time since we bought the yarn since we bought the fiber rather, to it becoming yarn, and now it's going to become a sweater this year, and yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. So that's it, guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you next week. Happy knitting. Bye-bye.